Hello everyone, my name is Marie. I'm a costume and prop maker and Genshin player, most importantly. I've created a couple of Genshin costumes and I know how hard it is to make them and sometimes even impossible. I assume Genshin designers are like, let's make the most complicated design ever and see if cosplayers manage to recreate it. So I laid my eyes on Kaveh, an architect from Sumeru, and I was consuming a huge amount of content with him. And one day AliExpress started promoting me his cosplay costume. And you know what? Eventually I added it to my chart. I was beating around the bush and wasn't really sure if I needed cosplay because it was also quite pricey. Until one day, there was the official character release day. I'm telling you, that was the last straw. So I bought it, and do you know that feeling when you pay for something online and it just doesn't appear in front of you right away and you have to wait for it to come for a month? So enough talking for now. Why am I holding a bobby pin like that? I know that you're excited, I am excited, so please excuse that bobby pin in my finger and let's have a look at the costume.
It took me around 2 weeks to get the costume. I received it on April 19 from the AliExpress pickup point, which was quite convenient in my case. Let's have a look what is inside. A shirt, a waistband, a bag with props and pants separately, and finally a beautiful cape. Now let's look closer at the details. First of all, I really appreciate that they attach 3D printed items and Velcro straps, and some parts of the costume are thick enough to keep the general shape. Some patterns are printed, but almost everything is attached by hand, which adds volume to the costume. The bag with props contains a small bag with extra pins, hooks, and even a little hot glue stick. Here's a feather, some other props are synthetic leather, and a 3D printed collar accessory and kind of a buckle. It is very clever of them to attach the hair clips to the props, and I might also use this technique. We have some shiny gems here as well and beautiful signature earrings. It's a Vision and it has a button on the other side so you can turn it on, but it's not that bright to be honest.
I am so happy that sellers give us cosplays with 3D printed props. I remember some years ago 3D printing was like out of my mind, and I got my 3D print only 2 years ago, I guess, and that was a game changer. And who could tell that in the nearest future you will be able to get cosplays from AliExpress with 3D printed props. But 3D printing has a specificity. A model consists of layers and you may choose the resolution from low to high. For example, here you can clearly see the texture of the layers, so we can conclude that the resolution was low. The quality of the printing model depends on resolution, and if you want a fine piece, it will take the machine hours to produce. And of course, manufacturers want to reduce the amount of consuming time, thus they choose low resolution. Coming back to this particular costume, it is fine. You may buy it and leave the props as they are, but you may use these models as a base and create high-end cosplay props. If that sounds interesting, just keep on watching and let's get started!
Let's start with the collar accessory. I peel off the stickers that the manufacturer used instead of paint and detach the lower part. Now I take a light sandpaper to get rid of the golden paint and then use the file to remove the texture. I use spray paint right after sanding in this case because the surface is quite even. Let's move on to other elements. I detach the glass, the gems, and other stuff, and then go sanding. It took quite a while because the models are curvy. And then I spray the acrylic primer to make the surface smooth and fill the gaps.
The next part might be a little bit complicated. Well, it definitely was for me from the very beginning. We're gonna use UV resin. Well, that might be only my concern and there is nothing to fuss around. But in this video, I used UV resin for the first time and succeed actually, and I think that might not be a problem for other beginners like me. Resins for arts and crafts usually consist of resin and a hardener, so you mix them together 2:1 ratio, fill the mold or the gaps in your design and leave it for a couple of hours to cure. And for a couple of hours, I mean 10, 20 hours. The difference with UV resin is that you can pour the liquid straight from the bottle, leave it under the UV lamp just for 1 minute, and that's it.
And that's what we're gonna do right now. I mixed UV resin with a drop of acrylic paint and started applying it on Kaveh earrings that I have 3D printed previously. Repeat the same with the collar accessory. Then I take a sheet of polyvinyl or PVC in short, which is kind of plastic that you can find in a hardware store, cut out the details to replace the original ones made of synthetic leather. Now let's move on to the collar band. I want to make it out of EVA foam, so I apply paper tape on top of the attached collar band and overline the edges. Then I tear the tape off, stick it to the paper, and cut the future pattern. I attach the pattern to the dress form and find out that the pattern doesn't really fit the original band shape, and that's totally fine, don't worry. You can adjust it by cutting paper where it should bend and fix it with paper tape, like this. Then I apply extra tape to cover the gaps at the front and on the side and draw the correct shape. And here's the final result. I decided to divide the pattern into 3 parts to add volume to the band. Since left and right parts are the same, I only do the left part at first and then simply flip for the other side. So here's our base shape. Now I start drawing the upper part according to the reference and then the lower part. In the end, we get 3 pieces. I cut all the details from EVA foam and now glue them together with a cyanacrylate adhesive. Adjust the shape and cut off the excess foam. I highly recommend outline the edges of the parts that you are going to attach later in order to apply glue within these edges to avoid mess. That's the final look. Now I cover the piece with black acrylic paint and then with a golden one.
So the main question is it worth it? Buying a pricey cosplay from AliExpress and altering the props? Yes, 100% worth it. I am so impressed by the costume quality and that the manufacturer added 3D printed props. And once again, you don't need to alter the props as I did in this video. They're quite fine as they are. I wore this cosplay for 10 times now, I guess, as a cosplay competition judge, as a convention visitor, for TikToks. By the way, you can go and check them out. It is very comfortable and it didn't fall apart after all of that. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. You may check my socials for more useful information. I will leave all the links down below and we will see each other in the next video. Goodbye.